All right, so we have recorded this episode in multiple parts. We recorded like a whole 10-minute rant that's coming. There's a lot of good stuff. But now that we're on part 2 of the actual time that we've been recording, there's some new info that has come out, and Jorge Lopez has been DFA'd based on his actions that happened during the game, maybe after the game. Jorge Lopez is gone. If you didn't notice, Jorge Lopez, when he made a pick off to third base with Brett Beatty, it hit Ramon De Jesus. Ramon De Jesus. He felt like he was in the way. He made some comments to him when he was going to be taken out of the game. He ended up getting ejected. He untucked his shirt, took off his hat and fired it through his glove into the stand. Someone went home with Jorge Lopez's glove, which is kind of crazy. It might be one of the coolest souvenirs ever. And then after the game, he goes to his locker, and old moon-faced Steve Gelbs asked him a question. And the question was, James.
What was the question?
I don't know. But basically, they were asking him about what happened. I thought you knew it. It was tough because Jorge Lopez is from Puerto Rico. English is not his first language. And it seems like there could have been a little bit of lost in translation here. But some way, somehow, Jorge Lopez, and I'll feed in the clip here after I introduce it here, said that he is either on the worst team in Major League Baseball or he is the worst teammate in Major League Baseball, or third, he is the worst teammate on the worst team in Major League Baseball. So I'm going to let you guys listen to that real quick.
Carlos Mendoza said that he understands the emotion, but that particular action of throwing your glove into the stands was unacceptable. Looking back on it, do you regret doing that?
No, I don't regret it. I think I've been looking the worst teammate probably in the whole MLB. So, whatever happened. So, whatever they want to do it, I'll be tomorrow here if they want me. Whatever they want to do. So, I'm gonna keep doing this thing. So I'm healthy and whatever. And whatever to do. I'm ready to come back tomorrow, and if they want me to be here, so I'll be here.
James, what do you think about this? Because this, to me, this is a major problem, and it's not necessarily a Jorge Lopez problem. I can't call him the right name. I'm calling him everything but Jorge. But this, to me, is a major, what is going on with the culture here?
It's a shocking thing because the Mets finally, after this game, had a team meeting, and they said media availability was paused for 20 minutes, and the team had a closed-door meeting. And they said Francisco Lindor called the meeting. They said everybody spoke. It was good speaking in there. I can't even imagine what was being talked about in that meeting if Jorge Lopez came out like ripping like this. And I understand that there's a few bad outings in a row for him, and he's someone who sucks he got DFA because he's been pretty useful this year.
I know he's going to go to the Atlanta Braves and get some big outs.
I hope not. I hope he gets picked up by the Rockies first because I don't want to see him in the playoffs. But
we're not making
it feels like there was something. Steve Gelbs asked him if he regretted throwing his glove into the stands, and he said no. And then this quote started coming to be the worst team in the whole fucking MLB. And it kind of feels like, if you listen closely to that, and a reporter, Manny Gomez, who is, I know he's Spanish, he's a Latin speaker, he reiterated, he had a tweet that was like, hey, if you guys listen, that's not what Jorge Lopez said. This is a misquote. And it felt like by that time, the cat was already just out of the bag. The SNY tweet had 3 million impressions. Steve Gelbs' tweet had 2 million impressions. DeComo did a triple double down for his friend Steve Gelbs and had another like couple 100,000 impressions. But if you listen closely, and you guys piped it in, you can go back and listen to it. You hear him say teammate. And my question about this, again, past the fact that it seems like there's just an issue with this Mets team. It seems like there's no cohesion in the locker room. It seems like nothing in here is being kept. It seems like there's no one to go to in this locker room when these guys are feeling out of sorts and the whole thing, the wheels are falling off. But where the fuck is the translator, Alan Soriel, right now? Where? This guy is not, his first language is not English, and he's around the biggest reporters like Steve Gelbs, DeComo. Everyone's at his locker and asking questions. He just had an outburst in the field. He threw his glove into the stands. I've never seen that before, especially with the Nets. He launched that glove 40 feet in the air.
It was insane.
Where is the team's translator helping him as he muddles through this? Because Steve Gelbs said, I'm asking you again, reiterate what you said. Jorge Lopez looked at him like he had 3 heads.
Yeah.
So like, I think that this also, it was funny because a reporter from a Baltimore news network, Ryan Vivicano, whatever, the tweet's going around too. He said he can't believe this happened. He said in 13 years covering the Orioles, Jorge Lopez, nice guy I ever met.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I guess it's an outburst, it's frustration. It's 2 weeks for him of bad baseball, a few straight outings, a month for the Mets of some of the worst baseball we've seen. But I do think that this might just be another classic Mets situation that we thought we haven't seen shit like this in a while, where something may have kind of almost happened, and then just because we have such a media frenzy surrounding this team, it's been blown completely out of what it actually was.
So I'm half with you. I think what Jorge Lopez said is being twisted possibly and being blown out of proportion. But the bigger issue here, and this will build into our 10-minute rant, which will be such a good segue for me while I'm editing, is this team has a major, major issue. This Pablo, I keep calling him Pablo Lopez.
Why?
Because Pablo Lopez is so good. He's always on my mind. Jorge Lopez, like you said, saying this to the media, where is Lindor? Where is the other players on the team to be around him and be like, whoa, hold on. He did not mean this. There's a fracture. There's a lack of leadership. There is a serious, and I hate being dramatic like this, but have you ever seen a team do this? Have you ever seen a player on a team do this? And just for context, this is the second player now that will be a former Met that has talked about how horrible this team is. Tommy Pham, don't forget, we're a few months removed from Tommy Pham saying this is the least hardworking team in baseball. He's never seen a group of guys that care less, work less hard. Now Jorge Lopez has this outburst, and whether or not the words are 100% correct, he did double down on that. He definitely is the worst teammate, and he also didn't deny that he said worst team. So there's a major, major culture issue going on in the Mets clubhouse. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what it is, but there is a real just gap of accountability, leadership, camaraderie. What is it? I don't know what it is, but I've never seen this with any other team.
Do you remember that we heard that story that before game one of the wild card series in 2022, that the team was like silent and lifeless and like totally still, and they just didn't really have any heart or anything?
Yeah.
I think about that a lot, especially in a situation like this where this locker room just seems completely misshapen.
They froze.
And nothing. And it makes me think a little bit that there might have just been something to having that elder statesman forever. Like, but by the time that David Wright had retired and was off this team, DeGrom was becoming the best pitcher in baseball. And at least I know DeGrom wasn't necessarily known as a leader, and I don't think he had necessary leadership qualities, but I think there was just a simple awareness that there's somebody in this locker room that's kind of ahead of everybody else.
Yes.
There's an elder statesman. There's somebody that warrants this massive, incredible amount of respect. And it just seems like this current team, this current juncture, there's not a homegrown guy like that. And Lindor makes the most money, and he's probably still objectively the best player, but he's never really seemingly taken that step and proven that he is the guy to look towards in the locker room for other players to lean on and to kind of be someone that is like uniting function off the field. And it seems like there's just this pure vacuum and this chasm where there needs to be a guy, a leader, a rah-rah, a dude, or just someone who is the man, and doesn't have that. And shit like this now happens with Jorge Lopez, where whether he was misquoted or not, you shouldn't even let him have that quote.
No.
Someone should be at his locker. Someone should have their arm around Jorge Lopez.
Dude, there are so many players that they go no media availability for. Can't talk to him today. How did this one slip through the cracks?
Where's the translator?
Where's the translator?
Alan?
Where's the PR team? We couldn't ask these guys any questions. They had a player say he's on the worst team in baseball. How does that happen?
They might have accidentally said that, and it might have been like their own media, the Mets' own internal media, with Steve Gelbs, Anthony DiComo, and Martino pushing the story out through the SNY funnel right now.
It's even more frustrating knowing how we were handled, with like how delicately everything was taken with us. Like, don't say this, don't say that, be careful of this, be careful of that. And then they just let this happen. Like, was everybody sleeping? What was happening?
It's insane malpractice. And again, this whole thing reflects, I think, much more poorly on the entire organization than it does on Jorge Lopez or even the 25 other players on the roster themselves.
I'm gonna say this: Jorge Lopez did nothing wrong. This team stinks right now.
I wouldn't say he did nothing wrong. Even if I think he should have said he regretted the glove throw. I think at worst he should have been like, "That was me. I got hot-headed. I shouldn't have done. That was disrespectful to the team and all that shit." No, I mean, again, I think that's being a little ridiculous. You're a professional baseball player. It's not that many people in the world that get to do what you do.
Yeah.
To double down on that, he doesn't regret that. But again, just to be left out there with no assistants, no one from the team helping him, no translator, no teammates with their arm around him, That is insane to me. It's almost shocking that these reporters were kind of sharkish and went after him like that. I think Steve Gulp, he was speaking slowly. He was speaking English, which is not Jorge Lopez's first language, but he did give him many chances to be like, is that actually what you just said?
He doubled
But again,
down.
he might not have understood. I don't know, but I can't wait for how the Mets spin this one. Or tomorrow they're gonna tweet about somebody's favorite ice cream flavors or something.
This is so bizarre. This is one of the most bizarre stories that have ever come out about the Mets. And this feeds all into the rant that you're about to hear for the next 10 minutes, because we talk a lot about the lack of leadership and the lack of heart and the lack of emotion. There's something brutally wrong with this team. Here's 10 minutes of it. All right, so we are recording this podcast before the game even ends. It's 9-3 in the top of the 8th inning. This team is a joke. This team is terrible, and we are putting 10 minutes on the clock. We're starting it right now. There's no intro. 10 minutes on the clock. I'm doing the editing for this episode. Starting now. Okay, we have 10 minutes. Let's start ranting. James, you go first.
This team is horrible to watch. They're not fun to root for. They keep inventing ways to lose games I couldn't even conceive possible. The fact that they gave up a rally on Tuesday in game one of the doubleheader after drop balls in the infield and then getting actually to the point where they could have won the game with the bases loaded and 1 out for Tyrone Taylor and then still finding a way to lose the game by multiple runs. It's shocking. Every single day, this team does something that shocks me to my core, and I have no conceivable way of how to stay in it.
Yeah, this team has a real loser mentality. There's no fight. There's no heart on this team right now. The only people showing any emotion are the relievers. I really wish some of the guys who had long-term contracts would maybe say something besides, we're going to be okay. We're better than this. We know we're better than this, because it's the same broken record now for 200-plus games of we're better than this. We're going to step up. We're going to be better. That Tyrone Taylor take was disgraceful to the sport of baseball. The fact that it was an automatic take, Tyrone Taylor said it was an auto take.
On 3-1.
On 3-1. I love Tyrone. Might have jinxed him because ever since I've loved him, he's been terrible. That's almost DFA-able. If it came from him, that's almost a cuttable offense. If it came from the Mendoza, that's even worse, honestly. I don't know what to do with this team. There's nothing that goes right on this team. When things go right, that's only for a short second. Then it goes wrong. The offense is atrocious. The pitching is doing fine. The pitching hasn't been good, but the pitching has been fine. But the bats can't help them out enough. This team is one of the most unwatchable Mets teams I've seen in a long time. And yes, we watched some really, really bad Mets teams, like actual bad players. This one's unwatchable because there is no life. There's nothing that makes you think that this team's going to make it any better. It's only disappointment.
Jeff had a quote after both losses on Tuesday, which was just these aren't blowouts. We're in these games. But I think that, I'm not going to say what he said is part of the problem, but that's what leads to the complete, pure, disdain I think I and most of the Mets fan bases had towards watching this team this year, where you're in every single game. You can win every game. The Mets only get blown out once we get to the 8th inning and the implosion happens, or extra innings when they just allow 7 runs to score. That's where the implosion is. That's where they wind up getting blown out. But the fact that all of these games for 75, 80, 90% of them are basically 50-50 coin tosses, and they find a way to lose all of them, that's what makes me have this putrid, ranky, stanky feeling. It's kind of like when you had your refrigerator, and if you guys have ever had a shit ton of roommates and the fridge just becomes a mess, a bomb hit it, and you see the fridge and it's daunting. You see wilting vegetables and expired sauces and an old cheese out there that's growing hair on it, but then you just there's a smell, and you think you take everything out that's expired and the smell is still in there. That's what this Mets team feels like right now. We've changed the deck chairs on the Titanic a few times and shit keeps getting different. But unless you take every single thing out of the refrigerator, that's the only way we're actually be able to deep clean it. I'm not saying that they should get rid of every player on the team, but I'm just saying that as this keeps happening, it's really hard to identify the issues because
everything stinks.
Yeah, it's just there's a smell and it won't go away.
Yeah, and you don't know what it is. You gotta move pieces around. I think one of the pieces that needs to be moved, I'm calling for heads 4 minutes into the podcast. Eric Chavez has to lose his job. He should no longer be the hitting coach. Jeremy Barnes has to go. Whatever the hitting approach that this team has is broken. It's terrible, and I've got the stats to back it up. So here we go. We're going to rip off some of these stats. The Mets are the only team in Major League Baseball without one player that has a positive run value on pitches in the heart of the zone. And for the people at home, James, what's the heart of the zone again?
Heart of the zone is directly in the middle of the strike zone. So it's kind of like Baseball Savant lays it out where the strike zone has 16 squares in it, basically. And it's just the middle, the straight, the heart. It's very self-explanatory, but it's a complicated way to say it.
The pitch is where you're supposed to make some damage, hit the balls hard. So you dive a little bit deeper into the numbers. You go, wow, that's pretty bad. They don't have a positive run value on pitches in the heart of the zone. Feels almost impossible. It should be. They're the only team in baseball. No one else is really close. They're 7th in called strikes in terms of heart of the zone pitches on a 0-0 count, which tells you they're not looking to swing with when they get to the plate. They're like, hey, get the first strike over on us. Put us in an 0-1 hole. Turn us from Freddie Freeman into J.J. Bleday. Not even. He's good now. Paul DeYoung, whatever it's going to be. The only team's worse. Red Sox, Giants, Brewers, White Sox, Tigers, Cardinals. Bad. Terrible. They have the 6th most outs on pitches in the heart of the zone. And if you look at pitch percentage, which is more indicative because, again, you can just have more quantity, they're 3rd for the 3rd highest in terms of outs on pitch in the zone. 25th in hits on pitches in the heart of the zone. Only team worse, Marlins, Rays, White Sox, Guardians, Cardinals. Terrible offensive teams. Take away singles. The Mets are 29th in hits on pitches in the heart of the zone. So everybody who loves a stupid fucking single, bad, terrible.
You could have explained that way better just by saying extra base hits in the
There
heart
you
of the
go.
zone.
Yeah, take them away, whatever. And that is a problem too because the Mets love singles and they're one of the least athletic teams in Major League Baseball. They're horrendous at base running. 21st in base running metrics according to Fangraphs. So you get singles, you don't take the extra bases. When you do, you take the wrong extra base. You don't steal bases. They don't do anything right. But wait, there's more. The Mets are 2nd in poorly hit balls on pitches in the heart of the zone. We're talking topping the ball. We're talking getting underneath it. We're talking just hitting the ball back to the pitcher 20 miles an hour. Terrible. We got 4 minutes and 30 seconds here. The Mets' first 4 hitters are dead last in hits on pitches in the heart of the zone. 6 through 9 hitters for the Mets are 6th best in Major League Baseball. If you would have told me that at the beginning of the year, again, I would have thought we'd be winning the division. Sean Manaea has a 3 RA. Luis Severino has a 2. It's unbelievable. The bottom of the order has 14 more hits on pitches in the heart of the zone than the top of the order, than 1 through 4. They have the 8th most outs on in terms of 1 through 4 in the heart of the zone, 6th most called strikes, and on top of that, they don't hit, and their defense is terrible. Starling Marte is arguably the worst outfielder in Major League Baseball right now, minus 6 OAA. That's 120th of 123. Tyrone Taylor, sorry, but he's been terrible too, even defensively, minus 2 OAA. Pete's got -3. McNeil's got -3. If it wasn't for Lindor and Harrison Bader, this would easily be one of the worst defensive teams in baseball history.
Even Omar Narvaez, who we've talked a lot about defensively, somehow he's only played about 30-ish games this year, is worth almost -1 win, almost -1 WAR. That's inconceivable for a player who's played that few games. That means over the course of a season, he could be worth -3 WAR. That could actually be one of the worst seasons of all time. And now I'm almost rooting for him to stay in the roster over Tomas Nido, see if we can cross that plateau. This was the 7th straight series for the Mets that they lost the first 2 games of. That in the last game of the series. And that's not even 2 games because there were a couple 4-game series mixed in because the Phillies won. This was the 7th straight series that they went into the last game of the series avoiding a sweep. 7th in a row. That's the most in franchise history. This team, I think, do they still, or they got broken last year, but they won the
3 minutes.
Their first season of their franchise, they were the worst team ever for most of baseball history. And this team is playing worse than that right now. They only scored 3 times in this entire series against Dodgers. 2 of them were home runs by Tomas Nido and Francisco Lindor. They went 20 consecutive innings between Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday afternoon without scoring a run, without scoring 1 run. The pitchers they faced in that time were Gavin Stone and today James Paxton for 3 innings. And after James Paxton left the game with no announcement after 3 innings, looking the best he has all year, do you know who the Dodgers brought in the game?
Anthony Banda.
Johan Ramirez first,
All
cut by the
former
Mets
Mets.
twice this year. Eliezer Hernandez, that Tomas Nido hit the home run off of, also former Met, never actually pitched. Then Michael Grove, who's an up-and-down guy pitching in relief in the starter. And then Anthony Banda. The Dodgers were pitching some of the worst pitchers on their roster against the Mets, and it didn't make a difference. They couldn't do anything against this team. And the little lineup shakeup had them hitting well for like a week after that, but now it's been horrible again.
Terrible.
And to make matters worse, Pete Alonso shattered his hand today in the first inning of the game. He was quivering. That didn't look good to me. We haven't gotten official word of it, but Pete doesn't usually come out of the game in situations like that. It's a complete abomination trying to watch his team hit. And on top of all of that, Adam Ottavino, who went like 3 weeks without giving up a hit in April, his ERA is now 5.48. It went from 0.67 to 5.48 in like a month. It has nothing. He's nowhere near. Oh, it's terrible. It's so bad to watch this team. They're so not fun. There's so little life. I don't know. And like watching that first game on Tuesday where it felt like the tide could have shifted, where Tylor Megill has such a good game.
Well,
We're going to talk
we're
about
ranting still. We're ranting still. Minute
Okay,
30
we're ranting
seconds.
still.
Yeah.
We knew exactly how the game was going to end right when he came out.
Yup.
Right when the Dodgers rally in the 8th and right when the Dodgers rally in the 9th. It was just so obvious how it was all going to wind up. And even when the Mets have men on base in the bottom of the 9th inning with fewer than 2 outs, they can't get any of them home ever. This happens time and time again with this roster. I don't know why they can't find a way to anyone to make a clutch play, anything ever. Even defense inning before. Beatty's had
so
such an
many
amazing
double
year at third
plays.
base. Beatty just drops a baseball
Never
out of his
seen
glove.
that.
I've never seen that before either. Francisco Lindor made a bad play. And also, why is Francisco Lindor trying to bunt
I
and
don't
getting his
know.
finger hit? Why Francisco Lindor should never, ever, ever, ever square around to bunt? It's so stupid how often this team bunts. I don't know who's telling them to bunt. It's we have 45 seconds left.
Yes.
Anything else you want to take home here for the rant?
So here's what it is with the New York Mets. This team is bad. They lack leadership all around. From Carlos Mendoza down to Ed, the last player on this team. Nobody is stepping up and being a leader. Nobody's taking accountability. It's going to be okay. We're going to fix it. Guys, the season is over if you keep thinking that way. You want to play in October? You don't want Eric Chavez to get fired? You don't want your friends to get traded from the team? We saw Francisco Lindor show more passion when he got booed and giving the thumbs down than he has the last 2 seasons. I love Francisco Lindor, but I'm starting to get frustrated that it seems like he's just not that guy. And I hate to be that guy.
Ding, ding, ding.
But fuck, this team is annoying. Okay. All right. Negativity done. The timer's
10
up. 10 minutes are over. We've been spewing so much negativity recently. That's for you guys. If you want more, let us know in the comment section of the YouTube video. Drop a like on the video. That's the best way to show us that you like this stuff. But we want to keep it real too. Let's go ahead and start talking about some actual things that are going on. A little housekeeping. Edwin Diaz to the IL for a shoulder impingement, which is basically code word for we just don't want him to pitch right now. We need him to get his head right, go down to St. Lucie maybe.
I disagree with you on that.
Ooh.
I think a lot of people were throwing out the fake like the fake injury thing.
Okay.
I think I have something white in my hair. What the hell is that in my hair?
Is that a white hair?
No, it's not. I mean, there's some grays up there, but it's not white hair. I feel like I'm breathing heavy after that.
Yeah, we got to slow down. That was.
I like that we put the clock on that. I kind of think that should be a thing that we might be start doing for episodes. That was a good idea, but shoulder impingement is the exact injury that you would get if you've lost your lower half and you're trying to air out the velocity with your upper half, which is why he's still able to get 90% of the velocity, 95% of the velocity he used to have without the life he used to have, because he's losing the drive, he's losing the extension. That it makes a lot of sense for me. He can't generate that force from the bottom, so now he's trying to put more on the shoulder, and that would make sense for an impingement there. The shoulder impingement, that could be a very serious injury as well. Mm-hmm. That could be an injury where we don't see
Isn't that what Kodai Senga technically had?
I'm not sure. I think Kodai Senga was a capsule thing, which a capsule is like that. That's like the tendon in your back shoulder. I don't know. I'll ask Nick Pollock this week. But I think a lot of Mets fans immediately went to the fake injury thing. And if it is, fine. I don't care.
Fine. Yeah.
But, totally okay. I would do it too. But it just feels like to me it's probably, I'm sure it is barking a little bit. I'm sure it's similar to how we've seen Tylor Megill and David Peterson like try to pitch themselves through some slight injuries because you just want to do it. But then it's like, no, you're actually now hurting you, yourself, the team, and everybody else as well. So
should I throw out the hypothetical that I was talking to you about in text and see what the people are thinking about that?
Let's just start saying everything, right?
Yeah. So I think that if the Mets are a serious baseball team and don't care about the trumpets and whatnot, let's say Edwin Diaz comes back from the IL because, again, it's not a serious injury, whatever it is, and he starts to pitch well. I think the Mets would be smart. I think they would be foolish not to look to trade Edwin Diaz at the trade deadline. And the reason being is that, again, a lot of these problems with this team, not David Stern's fault. As much as, like I said, Tyrone Taylor's been terrible, most of the guys that he's brought in have been good. They've been the guys who have been actually performing on this team. But David Stearns, if you remember, in Milwaukee, did not want to pay Josh Hader. Now, of course, they were a little more budgetary strained over there, but he was like, why would we pay all this money to a reliever when we know theoretically there's a small window that these guys are that good? And anytime they are not elite, it is automatically one of the worst contracts in all of baseball. So this isn't necessarily a shot at Edwin Diaz. This isn't even a shot at Billy Epler for giving out the crazy contract. I just think that if the Mets were smart and Edwin Diaz comes back and he's pitching well, don't be surprised if the Mets try to move him at the trade deadline. He would be somewhat valuable, too, to a team that needs a back-end closer, and getting rid of that contract would really help the Mets. Best way to describe it, Mets fans, I don't want to trade Edwin Diaz, but that like $20 million a year we spend on him to be our closer, and we see what happens when a guy is off, and it sucks because this is not him, and it's not fair to judge him based on what we've seen. But that's the negative of giving so much money to a guy that throws 3 outs a game.
3 outs a game, but like even like you have to think about extrapolating overseas. And I don't fully agree with you on this, mostly just because I don't think anybody would trade for Edwin Diaz's contract. I think it's such a boring contract that I don't think anybody would actually do it. But because what's he making, $20 million a year for the next 4 years?
About
I believe.
20 mil, yeah.
Yeah, so I think 4 additional years, including the rest of this one on top of that. So I think that is basically almost an untradeable contracts you have. But you're paying guys as much money as like mid-level starters get for pitching 60 innings a year, 70 innings a year. So that to me is just a luxury that you would like to think you'd be able to afford as the Mets and the wealthiest team in baseball, but also just when a roster has so many holes. And this was just an issue that the Mets got into in that 2022-2023 offseason. That is the exact thing that bad teams, bad front offices, and bad franchises do, where you beat expectations one time and then you reward everybody for it. Everybody. And that's not really a situation where it's like you should never be paying for players or past performance. You're always paying for future performance. And there was nothing about Edwin Diaz that would have made you think he wouldn't have been good again. But the only thing is that the risk is so great with every pitcher, where if anything a little bit goes wrong and you're attached to these long contracts, that's the thing, then it's over. Now, I'm not saying it's over for Edwin Diaz either, but I'm just saying that it seems like the 2022 version of Edwin Diaz, and this isn't saying a lot because that's probably the best season for a reliever most of us will see in our lifetimes. That's probably the best he will ever be. And you paid him based on that, not based on the next thing. And then now you look as a case study, a team like the Brewers, who this year have built, once again, the best bullpen in baseball. And I don't think one guy in there makes $1 over the minimum, legitimately. And I think that you're looking at the Mets bullpen now that has mostly been very good this year, despite him with Diaz mostly being very bad. And the guys who haven't been good are the ones who are making legitimate money. Like this got pieced together quickly without really much player development at all. Just guys with a little tinkering and little game plan changes from the free agent market. So that's kind of the logic of where trading Edwin Diaz makes sense. But also, again, I think unless you either eat a significant portion of that money or you accept no return whatsoever, who's taking that contract? Literally, who would ever take that contract?
Someone looking to hire Billy Epler, maybe? Mid-season?
Who would do that?
No, he's suspended anyway. He can't play because of all the phantom injury stuff.
Yeah,
Full circle.
Shout out Buck Showalter for that one. But it's just I don't even think it's a tradable thing. And again, out of all of this, the frustration I feel with the Mets and the team, I don't have any all towards David Stearns because I think
no,
he generally, which is hilarious, it actually was a pretty good offseason. All the guys who are stinking are the guys who are already here. Again, like the bullpen piece he pulled in, like Jorge Lopez had massive regression recently. Like that was always due for that, but him just being a capable arm is fine. Reed Garrett, again, I have some notes on Reed Garrett. We're going to get to a little bit later in the show, but again, overall in the full season, still totally fine.
Oh yeah.
Severino's been awesome. Manaya's been awesome. JD Martinez, imagine if they didn't have him.
Imagine those 1 through 4 stats if JD Martinez wasn't hitting fourth.
But it's just that it could have been a lot worse. And just but they had a lot of constraints. It's been generally okay, but just now I think the real work kind of begins because now who the hell knows where those goes? Like, what if Pete actually did just shatter his hand?
Yeah,
we can't talk about that long because we might be wrong by the time this comes out, or we'll be right. So we'll have to maybe put another time. 2 minutes talking about if Pete, choose your own adventure, if Pete's hand is totally broken. Because if it is, that dramatically changes the way you can go about the trade deadline now. If he's out for 6 weeks and he doesn't come back until July 20th, now what do? You can't. And then what if he doesn't hit one home run from July 20th to July 27th? Now you have 4 days to trade him, and people might not even know what the fuck he is. Like it just everything keeps going on and on and on over and over again. I don't know how it gets. I don't know. I don't have any answers. Do you?
No. This team is an endless hell cycle. It's just a loop of just like good thing happens. Psych. Never mind. You fucking thought. Nice try, idiot. And then. The good thing happens, and you thought again. Nope, you can't do it. Like they came back so nice in Game 3 today. Tomas Nido with that home run. Zach Campbell somehow in the right spot at the right time. Again,
he caught the ball.
What was he doing there? At the M&M corner, whatever they call it now. They took away the branding there, fan engagement. But yeah, if Pete's gone, it's it's going to be hard to watch this. It's hard to watch this team play with him. It's going to be almost impossible to watch them play without him. But it will be interesting because that probably frees up a roster spot for somebody maybe like a Luis Angel Acuna, who we will talk about a little bit in the prospect report.
I also think that there's, again, it's just pure loser talk, but there's something in the fact that Pete does go on the IL, and then you could just have Vientos play first and Bailey play third, and now you have like a month to just give those 2 at-bats every single day and just see who's gonna be a dog and rise to the top, because like Vientos keeps hitting and Bailey keeps playing good defense. Imagine if we could just like mash them together. If we could mash them together, we have like a 4-win player. Like that'd be awesome. But I don't know, again, I still like Vientos at first base. I think could be a fine defender. I still think Bailey, there's inklings of him possibly almost being able to hit, but it weirdly cleans up the roster a little bit, but also just it's still awkward. Also, another awkward thing. I was just looking at baseball today, trying not to think about the Mets. So Dodgers are playing the Mets right now in New York,
Okay.
and they're leaving today at 4. They're gonna get on their private plane at 8:00 to fly back to Los Angeles.
That's if they're lucky. Probably 9:00.
It sounds horrible, and they have a game tomorrow. Oh no, I think they have an off day tomorrow, but they're playing a home series this weekend against the Rockies.
Okay.
On Monday, they're flying back to Pittsburgh for a series against the Pirates.
What?
And next weekend they are in New York to play the Yankees.
That definitely the London series, I'm sure, screwed things up with them trying to time up being in New York at the same time to play the Dodgers and Yankees and Mets. But that is bizarre. And you know what? Props to you, James, staying on top of hating the schedule. You never miss.
Schedule. Never miss. Every time I see something the schedule is stupid, I'm always on because it's so fucking stupid. But
all right, let's talk about Tylor
real
Megill,
baseball
though.
a little bit.
Yeah, a little real baseball, because there is something good going on, and it's the guy that we keep going back to. I tweeted it out. I texted James. He's that ex-girlfriend. She breaks up with you. That's when Tylor Megill is bad. You're like, fuck this. I'm done with her. I can't do this anymore. And then, you know, you're lonely. You had a couple beers on a Friday night. Maybe your friends are busy. You're just hanging out at home and you get a, hey, what are you doing? And you're like, I'm back, baby. Let's go. I'm so back in it. That's how I feel with Tylor Megill right now.
But it's even more deep and dense than that, because it's not just like you get like a, hey, how you doing? You're getting like a, no, you know, I actually got a new job. I'm doing this now. Like, oh, and I went back to school. No, like that friend, me and I actually worked it out. Like all these red flags kind of started to go away a little bit. And Tylor Megill's done that with, you know, the slider's getting better, changed the release point in the fastball. The splitter looks like a real pitch. Like he keeps doing things. We're not just believing in Tylor Megill because Tylor Megill's existing and he's on the mound. We're believing in Tylor Megill because there are material changes happening to the way that he's pitching. Yes. And that's like the relevant thing. And he came out there on Tuesday against the Dodgers, against all odds, as bad as this Mets team has been, and had the best start of his entire career. There was that one time against the Phillies, the last year, 2 years ago, where he pitched into the 8th inning. But it wasn't 9 strikeouts, 1 walk, 3 hits, no earned runs against this Dodgers lineup, against Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Will Smith, and Shohei Ohtani. And especially even going toe-to-toe with Tyler Glasnow, who's pitched this year like the best pitcher in the National League.
Yes.
Truthfully. Him and Ranger Suarez are the two, but like he's been the best pitcher in the National League. And only one Dodger reached second base the entire game against him. He was in total control. It was beautiful to watch.
Yeah, the way he pitched was confident. And that's something that we don't see a lot from Tylor Megill. I mean, his nickname is literally Big Drip because he's a drip. Like, he knows it. He's a little mopey. He's a little sad. He's a little like, oh, whatever. I'm Tylor Megill. Like, very nice guy. Love the Megill family. But he's Big Drip. He was on the mound. He commanded the mound, and he really attacked the hitters. And that's the biggest thing with Tylor. Attack, attack, attack. That splitter is, like you said, just turning into a really nice pitch that seems to completely change him now. He threw 6 different pitches in this start, keeping the Dodgers hitters off balance. I know that the lineup top to bottom is a little all over the place, but the top has 3 MVP candidates, and he was able to give up 0 earned runs against this team. Really, really impressed with what we saw from him. And again, that fastball velo is up too. When he's pumping 96, we've talked about it before. That's where you go, oh shit, there he is. That's like, oh, she's been working out a little bit. Okay.
Especially because that fastball like was the key for Megill. He threw it for more than half his pitches. He just filled the zone with it. He wasn't really afraid. And something that I think I like seeing from Tylor Megill that he hasn't done super consistently in the past is that he was putting it all over the strike zone, just depending on the hitter. He was going high with it. He was going low with it. He threw a few inside to righties, which is something he's resisted to do a lot in the past. Yes. He did a couple of them. And he also went very much inside to lefties, especially like staying in Ohtani's kitchen, which is kind of the one place to get him out besides when he gets those wrists around and just does the crazy things he does. But that was really cool. And then he is really, I talked about his release point being raised higher a few starts ago as he was coming through the minor leagues, and that was helping life on that fastball. And he had 17 IVB in this start with that fastball. Ooh. But yeah, good. He was releasing it lower, but he was extending way more. Like, he had one of the deepest extensions I've ever seen him having a start in this game, in the one game data on it. So just cool that he's doing this and he's finding his release point. And when he did this change start to start, but he was able to repeat it, which is important. That means successful. That means he was comfortable. That means he was doing it. And the depth of his repertoire is something that's becoming very relevant, because the fastball is good, but it's not like amazing. So when you have that fastball, you're throwing 50% of the time. This has been the broken record thing with Tylor Megill, is that he needs things supplemented.
Yes.
And when he first came up, it was a struggle because you really only had that slider and that changeup, and everything else was kind of just getting repetitive. And then when he faced lefties, the slider was a little too big against them. It was just kind of like 2 pitches to each side of the plate, basically. Fastball, slider, the righties, and fastball, changeup to the lefties. But he threw 5 different pitch types to each side of the plate, hitters from each side of the plate in the start on Tuesday. First, lefties, Ohtani Freeman mostly. It was mostly the fastball, the cutter, and the splitter, but he mixed in the changeup and the curve as well. and just that nasty split late against Gavin Lux. He struck out 4 of the last 8 hitters he faced, retired the last 8 hitters he faced. And like that splitter, we talked about a lot in the last episode, and he only threw 5 of them, so I don't want to harp on it that much again. But it's a major outlier pitch. It spins basically less than every other pitch in baseball besides for Matt Waldron's knuckleball, and it moves more than every other splitter in baseball. Drops. So I think it's a very relevant thing. It's tangible differences with Tylor Megill, which is why we believe again. And as negative as we're feeling about the rest of the team, like we're going to pick our little pockets to be excited about when there's actually proof in the pudding and things to be excited about. I think a little bit Tylor Megill could be a piece of that.
Yeah, Mets'd podcast. We're still going to be more positive than most, and I've been a little whiny bitch recently. So the 10 minutes,
whiny bitch.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know what? No, we did our 10 minutes. I'm not saying anything more. Ooh, I just got a text from my dad. He said Ron just said more or less that the veterans, JD, especially Lindor, may need to talk with the team. Interesting. That
I think that's true.
I agree too, and I know I think they asked Mendoza, Lindor, and McNeil about it yesterday too. After the 2 games, like, are you guys meeting? Are you doing anything? And they gave answers like, well, we see each other every day. Like, we talk every day with each other. It's like, that's not what we mean, guys.
That's the problem. Again, now we're sorry to get back in the rant, but this team is on a 65 win pace, and no one's acting like it.
No,
like this isn't
fucking wake up time.
This isn't April anymore. It's going to be June in 2 days. Like, this is not a situation where we're like, I think we got to like gather things together, get ducks in a row. This is like, you have 3 weeks to save the season. You have to get within 5 games of 500 until the end of June, basically. We've never seen a Mets team fall apart this quickly and this early in the season, which is saying a lot.
They might leave some guys in London next weekend. Might not come back.
Dude, could you imagine if this team's going to be in London without Pete Alonso?
Oh, no. That would suck.
And the way the rotation works right now. Jose Quintana is scheduled to start in England. We want to grow the game against Taiwan Walker.
Oh, that's like the worst matchup ever.
It's gonna set
maybe we don't go to that game.
Yeah, maybe we only go this Saturday.
Maybe we free tickets, hopefully.
We will be in London for everyone else out there. Reach out to us. You're going to be in London.
We're going to be out there
for the weekend. Yeah, we're going to try maybe even just text people who can go to the same pub or something the day of the Saturday game. But I don't know. Again, we're going to look at some positive things. Tylor Megill's a place to turn, but these veterans do have to do something.
What's going on with Reed Garrett? Because the back and forth of what we've seen now over these last 3 or 4 appearances, I don't want to say I'm losing faith in him, because again, he still has been pretty good, but it feels now that he's back to being human again. Like, so what's the change here? What's the difference?
I would say there's definitely elements of him back to being human again, but I don't think that there's elements of him to back being like a bad reliever again.
Okay.
All the stuff is still as it was, and even like, it's weird because it's something that's changed with him is the approach, which is something that I'm shocked that has changed because of how successful he was early. But I do think it's a situation where he was using such a crazy approach to start the season. He was just basically only throwing off-speed pitches. He was leading with splitters and sweepers and barely teeny tiny mixing in fastballs and sinkers. So that, I just think that hitters have now prepared for that, because when you keep throwing splitters, it's not a pitch you throw in the zone. It's a whiff pitch.
Yes.
So when hitters are ready, that pitch is coming, they're much less likely to swing at it. Or in the case of on Tuesday, Mookie Betts smoked 110, a splitter that was just off the plate, where I was like, oh my God, this is different now. But the hyper off speed usage, I feel like could only work for a short amount of time until you have to really throw your fastballs again. Matt Whistler tried to do this through 80% sliders over a couple. Jacob Junis did this really well, where he threw 65% sliders last year for the Giants, and he was doing these 40 pitch samples. He was a good glue guy for that rotation. But it just, if you don't have great command of it, you're going to lose it. And the thing that Reed Garrett has lost recently is his command. He's been throwing more pitches outside the strike zone, but it's not even just throwing more pitches outside the strike zone. He's always still been throwing basically a league average, slightly below average amount of pitches in the strike zone. Zone rates 45%. You made league average zone rates 48%. But hitters still couldn't hit anything. He was basically running a 100% whiff rate through the first entire month of April on pitches outside the strike zone. So if anybody swung at the pitch outside the strike zone, they weren't even touching it. They weren't fouling it off. They weren't putting it in play. And they definitely weren't getting base hits on it. He had a 5 straight start stretch where it was 100% whiff rate on pitches outside the zone through that crazy run in April. And there was one where it ducked down to 80, because it was probably 4 out of 5, and then he went back up to 100 for 1. It was a 6 out of 7 start stretch. That
would explain it too, because again, watching him, not diving into the numbers like you for this, watching him, I feel like the hitters look more comfortable, like they have more of a plan against him, and that builds into what you're saying, along with the fact that not, like you said, there's not really a change in necessarily how he's attacking guys, but he's not getting those chases, which would explain why it feels like these at-bats are going longer and longer and longer.
Totally, and not getting those chases early. That means he has to come back to the fastball and the sinker that he wasn't throwing as much because he's falling behind in the count more often. So now he's throwing those pitches significantly more than he did. But the fastball is still good. It's still throwing hard and it still has good life. So it's confusing to me why that pitch is getting hit so hard. So I'm thinking maybe there's an adjustment back for Reed Garrett where now he just starts throwing that fastball early in the count and just maybe has more fight, like more balls with it, more bite for it, and just does it. But just the end of the day, he's getting fewer swings and misses. Hitters are swinging against him much more. They're being more aggressive, especially on pitches outside the zone. He's still getting a similar amount of chases, but a much higher rate of contact on those chases, which is like, I think they know that splitter is going to be a pitch that makes you want to swing at it, but then hitters used to kind of be surprised and miss it, where now it's like you're ready for where it's going to be, which is a lot of times just barely below outside the strike zone. And then those bats are getting longer, more fastballs come. That's how the walks come. I think he's still a really good reliever. The command is a little off right now. There's probably a little mechanical thing, or just have to him get his confidence back up, or just fine tune his game plan a little bit. But he's just not the best reliever in baseball anymore. And just end of the day, that's just really shit timing. Because right now, the Mets need April Reed Garrett. And if they had April Reed Garrett and just in May Reed Garrett was in April when they had April Edwin Diaz, they probably have like 4 more wins right now, which is kind of shit. That like at the same time you develop this reliever to become this like kind of lightning rod for this team early. And we said it, like we knew this was unsustainable because Reed Garrett had basically won them 4 games. So actually, yeah, maybe if they just had May Reed Garrett, then they would have lost those 4 games and won these 4 games. So we just feel a little bit better about the shape.
We'd feel better.
Yeah, but the record would probably still be about the same, worse than the Oakland Athletics and just god awful. But he's just it's terrible. It's bad. Like, again, I don't think I wouldn't go around saying Reed Garrett is cooked. He's just not the best reliever in baseball anymore.
Yeah, and that's, I think, understandable. I think anybody who thought that he was going to be the best reliever in baseball for the full year, you were probably also one of the people who thought the Mets were going to win the World Series this year. There's not a big Venn diagram there.
Gave up another run in the 9th inning.
We lost 10-3.
10-3. Jason Hayward, of all people, hit a home run.
Dude, he had a homer and a triple.
He hit a home run off a lefty, Josh Walker, somehow.
Josh Walker, man. I love Josh Walker, but boy, oh boy, does he not ever perform well.
I think he has, 10 innings this year and like a 2.70 ERA. It's not terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess he does balk in a couple runs a year. That's probably where I'm also getting it twisted too.
But then even just the last real baseball thing to talk about here is just like David Peterson has all these amazing numbers in the minor leagues as a 28-year-old. And he's still exactly David Peterson, which is a fine guy to have on the roster, but he's not saving the day.
Throwing harder. I know Gary made a comment early. He's like, we're seeing him throw 95 more than I feel like I remember last year. So it actually was down.
Wasn't true. Yeah, no, it went up a little bit. Like he was getting to 95, touch a fake 97 with the fastball, 96.5. But then by I guess there might be some mismarked pitches here on Savant because it says that he threw an 85 mile an hour sinker and 85 mile an hour fastball.
Can't be right.
So those could have just been mismarked changes. So I guess they're probably about a tick harder, but still, I think that. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we can talk about the hitting. It was abysmal, non-existent. It's not like
20 innings they didn't score. 20 innings. 20 innings. That's more than 2 full games.
I was on the phone with my dad, and he was telling me, he's like, I want to say it because I'm tired. I don't want to hear Gary say. He's like, but the Mets haven't scored in 20, 21 innings. As soon as he said that, Tomas Nido home run. I was like, what did you just do? How did you do that? This is unbelievable.
Keith Rad the same thing on the radio. And I also want to shout out Howie and Keith for the series because like they were just being very jovial in the booth as bad as the team was playing. Howie was so mad that the scoreboard was wrong like the whole doubleheader on Tuesday. He was so pissed off. He was like, I don't know who runs the scoreboard. I don't know who's in charge of it, but they have to be better. He said it's been ridiculous. Time after time in the season, it's been wrong. I was dying listening to that.
Dude, Howie, man, he's making sure top to bottom the organization's running well. I can tell you right now, it's not.
No, definitely not. And I think he did say it ran better on Wednesday, so it works. The Howie Rose effect. Maybe he should say they should hit better.
Yeah, maybe they should hit better. They should get more timely hitting. They should put the ball in play more. Maybe take less first pitch strikes down the cock of the plate. It's pretty tough to talk about this team. And I don't really know what else to talk about here. And then there is one more thing, which sounds insane. That there's one more thing to talk about. This team is news. This team's so fucking bad, and we have more to talk about. It actually has to do with off the field. And James, I saw you put it in the notes. Steve Cohen casino stuff. What are we calling it?
I'll call it drama because there's something else going on off the field with this team right now that I think is probably going to hold more importance to the team, the organization itself in the future that has so far. So I'm sure you guys, Mark, you remember that huge proposal that went super viral because every single person associated with the Mets tweeted out that picture with the new parking and the park and all that new stuff in Queens that was supposed to be opening in the next few years. That was like Steve Cohen's huge proposal. It's the Queens Metropolitan Park in Flushing Bay.
I was down on the Hard Rock in Fort Lauderdale, and the dealer at my blackjack table was like, "Oh, you're from New York? I heard they're opening a casino right by Citi Field." I was like, "That's the talk of the town."
The whole point of that is that it was a casino, but with the casino in the same proposal, there was a 20-acre park. There's a huge parking tower. There was a Hard Rock Hotel and other hotels by LaGuardia, a live music venue, a convention center, a Queens-based food hall, more bars, more restaurants, a new totally revamped subway station for the 7 line, and tons of more stuff that was expected to cost an estimated $8 billion. That was the proposal. And this was kind of the whole brainchild around Steve Cohen purchasing the team initially, that we were going to revamp the Flushing area. No more chop shops, NYCFC, Mets, casino is going to be a whole sporting experience. But the whole thing was fully contingent on him getting this casino license that's up for grabs in New York City. And this casino license up for grabs in New York City right now, like you guys might think that sounds crazy. It's because of this. This doesn't really ever happen ever in New York City. Like there's a couple of these up for grabs. A couple of them are going to places that are like racing tracks, but there's one that's actually set to go for the city. And Eric Adams is vehement that he wants, the mayor of New York, he wants a casino in New York City. He said over and over again, he used to work for the Gaming Commission. He ran into some issues when he headed up the Gaming Commission. We're not going to talk about that right now. But again, this is like a once in a lifetime chance for a billionaire to put the casino in New York City. You will print money forever. Literally, you'll print money forever. There's a quote from a New Yorker article that is behind a paywall. But if you guys ever have an article behind a paywall, some websites, if you want to, I taught Mark this trick. If you want to be really slick, I hope Tim Healy's not listening since I read his articles. You you got to quickly refresh the page, and then quickly you got to have fast fingers. Command A, Command C, select all, copy. Then you bring it right to a Google Doc, and you can read articles behind a paywall. So that's a trick for you guys. That's an easy one from James over here. But New Yorker reads good stuff, and the quote was, "An unfathomably lucrative license."
Yeah, of course.
Just to get this license, you have to put up $500 million, half a bill up front, and then you're accepting nearly a 70% tax on everything you make. And still, every single fucking mover and shaker of the ruling class of New York is gunning for this casino, and Steve Cohen's at the top of that list.
So, what's the new news? Because I saw there was a big article that came out about there might be some issues now with the casino, and it got my brain thinking of some crazy conspiracies.
Yeah, mine too, especially from formerly being a politics guy. But technically, officially, because nothing's ever technical or official in politics, because you always have ways around. The bid for the casino in Queens, in Flushing, by Citi Field, has been blocked by State Senator Jessica Ramos, who's a state senator for Queens. And she just plainly said in a statement that her constituents do not want a casino in her backyard. And personally, I would agree with those constituents. I definitely would not want to live within a half mile of casino. Casino will invite unfavorable characters to your area, and it'll just leave, like Mark, it'll leave your citizens in worse situation, probably financially, because it's easy to gamble, and people love to ruin their lives gambling. So it's probably not, I wouldn't want one in my backyard. And this doesn't mean it's over, because there can always be a power play, there can always be lobbyist stuff, there can always be something that happens. But this is from the New York Times article about it. Ms. Ramos said that Mr. Cohen's team has made unforced errors during their process that frustrated her, and that the group had hired so many lobbyists and experts that it was hard to find someone who wasn't already on their payroll. She said she would be surprised and offended if any of her colleagues in the state senate tried to go around her. So basically, if Steve was able to create a majority to overrule her ruling in her area. And Steve has tons of, of course he is. And he has tons of lobbyists on deck. And I think it's interesting to note because it kind of starts to put to light a lot of other things that have happened with this team, this organization, just Steve Cohen's ownership of it initially. First of all, he was a massive donor to the Eric Adams campaign. Yeah. All these donations are public. You guys can look it up. He's one of the highest donors to Eric Adams campaign a few years ago.
Remember with COVID, the whole thing with the COVID games and playing in New York City, and if you weren't vaccinated, and all of a sudden it was like, well, for the Mets and Yankees, they're all right.
That's what I'm saying. But again, he's a big political donor. I mean, why not? You billions of dollars. You should be donating to politicians who will help your interests. But that's just the game. He's just playing the game. You can't don't hate the player, hate the game.
Hate the game.
But he's been so generous to Queens locals, the Mets employees, and it's great. He's made a lot of people's lives significantly better in the few years that he's owned this team. Technically, ours included.
Tons.
We were part of the generosity for a little
Deep
while.
in our pockets.
right? He's invested a lot of money in that area surrounding Citi Field. He's already made it better. The chop shops are going away. The NYCFC, they've already broken ground on that. And that is Ms. Ramos's district. So there was this kind of symbiotic relationship between the two, which I'm sure is because Steve knew that eventually she would have kind of as close to an official say of whatever would happen in the past year, along with Eric Adams, who's been part of the Gaming Commission, who, again, just Google Eric Adams Casinos, Eric Adams Gaming Commission. You guys will find some stuff there. We're not going to talk about it here. And there was even something that Steve Cohen was instrumental with, that working with Ramos years ago, that was crazy and like will change baseball forever. He was instrumental in starting to set up the minor league baseball players unit. Basically had a huge hand doubling minor league players' salaries. Ramos brokered the first meeting between Steve and the advocates for minor leaguers in 2022. It was the first meeting of its kind ever to get minor league players more rights and more money. And this is from an Athletic article in June 2022 by Evan Drellick. Since Steve Cohen took ownership of the Mets in 2020, he has been so responsive to the fans and cared for the team in a way that matches our devotion to the team, Ramos said in a statement. I'm looking forward to sitting down with Uncle Steve. She called him Uncle Steve in this quote to The Athletic, and the minor leaguers so we can work out a way to finish the job and extend that same sense of care to all the players. And it happened. It worked. And Steve was the one who kind of greased the wheels and let Senator Ramos kind of do that. That was pretty instrumental for her. And now it's interesting because she's been really in the spotlight with Steve Cohen. She's probably planning a mayoral run because of how low Eric Adams' approval rating is. And this is another kind of stake in the ground for her, especially with her base, her constituents, and just being a progressive Democrat as it is. But again, we're not going to get into all that. Really now we want to talk about what this means for the Mets, because I think both you and I, Mark, our brains kind of start twirling with this. I think your dad's did as well. He chimed in too. But yeah. I think it's interesting now. Steve's stonewalled. He's probably going to try and get around this any way he can with his lobbyists, with his money, with everything. But I wonder now if this relationship with him and Ramos is hurt, what this means for the generosity we've already seen. And I'm not saying that anything's going to change, but I'm just doing my Brian Windhorst right now. Like, what if this is happening? Like, what can we actually expect to happen next? Why is this all happening right now? I don't really know the answer to that, but it seems like something that was a huge reason why Steve Cohen bought the Mets might no longer be possible.
Can I go get some aluminum foil? Put it on real quick.
You've permission to go there.
Okay, let me do that. All right, we got the tinfoil hat on. I've been deep in the conspiracy theory for this one here, and you talked about maybe Steve Cohen purchasing the Mets was not only about purchasing the Mets, and I tend to believe it. And I have this horrible, terrible gut feeling, tinfoil hat on. Of course, this is crazy talk now. There's nothing real to this. This is simply me being so messed up in the head as a Mets fan. If Steve Cohen doesn't get this casino, if this whole project doesn't happen, probably sells the Mets, right?
I can't say probably.
Wait. His whole thing was he kind of wanted to buy SNY too. And he doesn't own SNY. And if he's not going to have the media company, he owns a mediocre baseball team, which they are right now, and he doesn't get the big casino, why? He doesn't need to own this team. He has no interest. I mean, like, for those of you who don't know, Cohen tried to buy the Dodgers. Like, it wasn't like the Mets were always the number one team that he necessarily wanted. So, I don't know. The pieces are coming together, like you said, Brian Windhorst. Maybe, and 10 years from now, Steve Cohen goes, like 70. I don't need to deal with this shit. I'm out. Like, this is too much work. I'm good.
Just losing money year after year, still having the ire of half the fan base. It's in Ramos's denial of the proposal. She reproposed back to Steve to basically be able to do every single thing he said, just with a bigger convention center, I think an extra hotel, just the whole thing with no casino. So that's kind of her putting the ball back in his court.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to help this community? Did you want to do this for the land? Like, I think a big reason for buying the Mets for Steve Cohen was the fact that they were largely an untapped market because in a lot of different ways. And one of the big ways was baseball. We've talked about that a lot. The fact the Wilpons never had an analytics department. The Mets didn't use any data. They basically just scouted and then just hoped for the best. That was what they did for the past 50 years of existence as a franchise. And it worked twice, kind of, but that was really it. So then Steve was like, okay, we have all this land. We're in New York City. We're on a subway line. This casino license is going to be up for grabs in a few years. I have the most money and the most political power to do something about this. I can turn this whole area into a happy fun land. And while I do this, I have my baseball people. And hopefully within 5 to 10 years, this baseball team becomes a happy fun baseball team. And this is just something that everybody wants to do. like similar to where the Battery is in Atlanta, where it's not really in Atlanta, but everyone's willing to go there and spend
Yes.
some time. Like, you could just fly into New York. You could just hang out in like the Mets complex,
Yeah.
the Mets area. And like, you could basically never, it's crazy to think about because of what we all have known it as our whole lives. But the idea for this is you could fly into LaGuardia, you could never leave Flushing, and you could have an amazing weekend of Mets. You can go to a couple
so good.
games. You can go to the Queens Authentic Food Hall. Like, maybe you can take one subway ride into Manhattan for the day just to see it. But like, you could take a New York trip that's solely dedicated to the Mets. Like, that was the dream. That was the idea. That was the plan. So
Catch a soccer game.
that exactly everything. It's gonna be. It seems like it might be a bit of a pissing contest now between Steve and the state of New York, which I think is gonna be fun. And if this keeps happening, and even if the shit's under the radar, we're gonna cover this in the podcast because Mark's got on his tinfoil hat. I love politics. I think it's fascinating, and all this shit is fun. I think this is some of the most fun shit we used to talk about back in the day in this show, especially with like the labor negotiations and all this shit that was going on behind the scenes. It's kind of a weird moment that's being overshadowed because of how much other shit is happening with this team.
How bad they are. We had the player just say he's the worst teammate on the worst team.
Threw his glove into the crowd. The team can't win a game. It's insane shit. But there's definitely something for everybody to watch. And I think something that a stories can develop a lot because maybe this all is over. Maybe Steve just says, okay, I'm not going to get to the casino. Like, I'll take your proposal and we're going to have a great time in Queens. And then because the other proposal, I think the ones who are leading for this casino thing now without Steve is the Win. They're going to build like a massive casino in Hudson Yards. And it's just going to be like a massive indoor, like luxury casino, which is going to be insane. And just James Dolan wins again. That rat fuck bastard. He can't knock the guy off his fucking high horse. But I wonder how is it going to materialize here?
Wonder how it's going to affect the Mets. There's a world where it does. And that's so, God damn it. I hate this team so much. I hate this team so much. It never ends. It's an endless hell loop. Oh my God. Even when it's not about baseball, it's always about baseball. It's always about the Mets. All right. This has been an eventful episode. You want to talk about prospects real quick? We got time to talk about prospects?
Yeah, we're definitely going to do a bit of a shorter prospect report for you guys because this episode was just insane to begin with. And this week, 2 weeks, month of Mets baseball was insane. And we also, I think on Friday, because Mark's being a little slow editor, we're going to have Mark and I's top 10 prospects in the Mets system ready to go. It's a week after we recorded it, so the stats won't be like perfectly exact, but all the same ideas, all the same concepts. I think it's a lot of really, really good stuff in there. But just a quick check-in for the week of Mets minor leaguers as we go. I think the big thing is happening right now. You see a lot of people talking about it on Twitter is Luis Angel Acuna has finally gotten hot this month, basically the last couple of days. Since May 8th, he's hitting 329 with a 372 on-base percentage and 443 slugging with 6 doubles and 8 stolen bases. But that sounds really good, but it's kind of hilarious because AAA is so easy to hit in and hitters are having such a good time there that those numbers is only a 112 WRC+.
That's crazy.
So even with a 330 average, a 372 on base, and a 440 slug, he's only 12% better than league average. And he only hit 1 home run in that time, too. But I think that's still the issue. The bat to ball is still really good. I'm going to talk about that a lot in the top 10 prospect stuff. But just please relax. People are yelling for this guy to be called up right now. He's not even close to being major league ready. I think if he gets called up now, it could be detrimental to his entire career.
Yeah, I yelled about him getting called up earlier. So,
Yeah, I mean, you're part of the problem.
I'm part of the problem. I don't know. I need this. To be fair, when I said that earlier, again, that was part 1 of the recording. Need a little juice. I did it again. Jorge Lopez. God damn it. Oh my God. Jorge Lopez really gave me some juice here at 9:45 at night after the game was over for an hour and a half. It was that's crazy. Whatever. We're past it. All right. Prospect report. Jet Williams still hurt. Not great. Got another cortisone shot. Surgery might be on the table, which means a lost year, which is not detrimental to Jet Williams' future success, but boy, oh boy, does it slow it down, and it sucks, and it's just a guy who is really flying through the minor leagues, flying through the rankings and everything. You don't want to slow him down anytime soon. Drew Gilbert also should be back playing again in a couple weeks. I know he's coming back from hamstring injury. That's just been kind of nagging him along. And boy, as we talked about, the Mets could use it because they've got 2 outfielders that are not even AAA players right now the way they're playing. So Drew Gilbert can't come back soon enough. But Double-A, your boy Brandon Sproat keeps on chugging along. The Sproat goat is so good.
He's the man, dude. It's his last 2 starts at Double-A, he completed 7 innings both times, and something that I think people have called to be like throwing some water on the fire of Brandon Sproat this year is the fact that he's not as much of a strike thrower. He only threw 61% strikes in his time in Brooklyn, despite striking everybody out and having a very low ERA. But he's up that strike rate. It's almost 70% now in Double-A, 67.3%, courtesy of Chris Clegg, Roto Clegg. Twitter friend of mine, actually just had a baby today.
Congratulations.
he had the baby came fast, and him and his wife had to give birth in their house. They couldn't get to the hospital in time. You know how
What?
scary that is? Terrifying
Oh
shit.
my God.
Insane. He said that. I was like, dude, congratulations. That's horrifying. But back to Brandon Sproat, 1.42 ERA in the season. And again, guys, this is the 2023 Christian Scott treatment. Like, he is on the fast track. I called this shit to a T in the offseason. It happened perfectly. And just keep pitching AA. Just keep dominating AA. Keep striking guys out. Keep those walks down. And he will be the top 100 prospect we ordained him to be.
Nolan McLean up in AA as well, finally getting a little bit of a challenge here. Through 2 starts, 9 innings, 5 earned, 2 walks, 9 Ks, and it's a good challenge. This is the kind of stuff that should be happening early on for a guy like Nolan McLean, who again was a relief pitcher in college, swinging the bat, being a two-way player, doing it on both sides of the ball. The 5 earned runs, I guess, is the thing to worry about, but 9 strikeouts and 2 walks, like that to me is where I go in 9 innings. Pretty good start for Nolan McLean in AA. I don't think it's anything to be worried about, per se.
No, totally. Again, I don't know. I don't remember if we said in the top 10 prospects or last week in the prospect report, but I think it was like 11 total starts since he was in high school before reaching AA. So that's like, again, like anything that happens in AA right now for Nolan McLean this year is basically house money.
Sick.
Just keep developing. It's amazing.
Blade Tidwell, my boy, he keeps continuing to look pretty good in AAA, which is super encouraging through his first 2 starts, 5 2/3, 3 hits, 2 earned, 4 walks, 3 Ks, and then 6 innings, 4 hits, 0 earned, 4 walks, 2 Ks. So we see there's walks. That's definitely a thing with Blade here, getting a little bit more walks than the strikeouts, not getting the swing and miss, which had always been the thing that even Matt Eddy had talked about, is like, we don't know if he's going to be able to get those swings and misses at the higher levels as he goes up and up. But we do have some StatCast data, and James, you're the perfect guy to talk about it.
So much StatCast data. I'm so excited for this Blade Tidwell stuff. And even before we get into that data, just like seeing those walks and strikeout numbers, I caution people not to get like worried because he is in AAA for the first time. The 2 things we know about AAA right now is that the hitters hit the shit out of the ball because the ball is probably different. I think the league-wide OPS there is basically over 800. And 2, he's probably using the automatic ball and strikes for the first time he ever has in his career. So that's just a hard thing to get used to. That could lead walks to going up, strikeouts to go down, and runs to go up. He's still been able to keep runs off the board, which is cool. But StatCast data is really, really interesting. A lot of this is just like me doing my little IVB calculations, but also my guy TJ Stats, Thomas Nestico, who I think we're gonna have on the podcast soon whenever the Mets play the Blue Jays. He's a Blue Jays guy. Amazing. He does his little write-ups, these little graphs and charts after basically every single start in baseball, and he'll make you a player card if you just ask for it. He's the man. But that first start really impressed me for Blade because he was sitting 95, 96 with that fastball, 17 inches inverted vertical breakaway. So really good life, good hoppy action, even with his like downward sloping release. So that just means like how much backspeed he's getting at that ball was good. And then his velocity dropped a little bit in the second start, and the IVB went down, and it made the fastball look worse. It made him more susceptible getting hit. He got many less swings and misses on it. So that oscillation, that range of his fastball is probably the difference in Blade Tidwell of being like a 2-3 starter versus like a back end 4-5, like kind of swingman kind of thing. So it's just something that I'm sure he's very focused on. I'm sure he's working on a lot. I'm sure the organization is working on a lot. As much as everything with this team right now is bad dog shit, this pitching development, we must trust it. It must be trusted at all costs. But everything that Yeagers and Hefner are doing are great, despite the complete incompetency of every other facet of the organization. So just keep on that right now. And then I talked about it, and he talked about Blade with some reporters that he was really excited about his cutter that falls right between his big sweeper and his fastball, and he's been throwing it a lot. The sweeper and the cutter have both graded out as plus. He's mixing in the changeup and the curveball. Got a 5-pitch mix. It's something that I think could be developed very nicely as we stay at AAA.
Yeah, I mean, we love Blade over here. Blade's a stud. Last guy to talk about, Nick Morabito, continues to keep crushing. We got a new hardest recorded ball in play of his career at 106.8, which, again, at that level for his age, super encouraging stuff. Going to get stronger, going to get bigger, whatever it's going to be. You expect those to keep going up and up and up. And he's hitting nearly 350 in Brooklyn with 12 stolen bases in 17 games. Like, you kind of just can't ask for anything more. Keep going through the levels, keep playing well, keep moving on up.
Yeah, that's it. Just going to keep shouting him out because he keeps playing really well. He's been one of the best performing minor leaguers in the entire league so far this season, which is amazing. One of the highest on base percentages. And again, light prospect report, crazy episode, and our new top 10 prospects coming out on Friday. So keep a lookout for that on the YouTube channel, Mets'd podcast. Go subscribe over there. Now, for games that the Mets will be playing, yeah. I mean, this sucks. I don't even like thinking about this team playing. You know what really sucks is that this is the first time in years that I see the Mets on the schedule. I'm like, I don't really even want to go.
I have no desire. I like the Diamondbacks. Me and you both snakes alive, of
Snakes
course.
alive.
Obviously, snakes alive. We went to the World Series. I went to the NLCS. Got to see them make their run. Shout out Dalton out in Arizona. Shout out Co. But yeah, I have no interest in going to watch, especially with like Corbin Carroll's playing about as bad as anybody in Major League Baseball is. Like that was one of the guys I wanted to see play, and he's been playing terribly. But that means he's going to get hot, surely.
I don't know. Corbin Carroll has some actual worrisome trends right now in everything his profile. Because you remember last year against the Mets in that series right before the All-Star break, he got hurt. His shoulder popped out. And Corbin Carroll's always been fascinating because he's a smaller guy who generated power and came out basically as an MVP candidate right away. Like leader of that team, great defensive center fielder, leadoff hitter with power, one of the fast guys in baseball. And just hasn't been the same since that moment. I had it in my like crazy Twitter thread that went viral the other night, which was crazy fun. That thing was awesome. If you guys haven't seen that, check it out. I got 5 million impressions on Twitter, 2,000 followers. Shit's insane. I couldn't believe those numbers. I had friends texting me like, "Wow, dude, saw the tweet. Congrats." I was like, "Thanks." Like I don't even know, but I want to find the exact stat for Carroll because it's shocking. 6 home runs in his last 113 games.
Whoa.
And a -5 run value against fastballs. When last year, I think it was like +10.
Yeah, I saw Mark DeRosa do a breakdown. He can't, because of it, that shoulder thing, he can't get up on the fastball. Everything, he's underneath it.
And we've seen how much a shoulder injury can derail a young player's progress with Michael Conforto years and years and years ago. Because shoulders is instrumental. Hitting mechanics are so fascinating to me. Like we've had so much data on pitching for so many years. I feel like even as not someone that ever pitched or at a high level or even past youth, like I can conceptualize what it means to like create force from like the bottom half and like generate the power and like pitch.
Yeah.
But hitting, I don't even know.
How many innings do you think you pitched in your life?
Oh, under 30.
Okay, that's interesting.
Maybe 50, yeah. I used to love pitching it in town. I had one little slider I used to just rip off.
That feels that was right. James being a crafty slider guy. Like
I would throw like every pitch, yeah. And a fucking like a 3-finger slide, try and change up. But I couldn't throw hard. I had no arm strength. That was my whole thing in baseball. But hitting is crazy to me. I feel like it's so much fun with all the new bat tracking stuff on StatCast, and now like it gives us a little bit more insight to hitting, and maybe it's still not even a complete picture. I think we're going to learn more of that, like we see bat paths, but seeing like swing lengths in different parts of the zone and seeing different guys with bat speed. And Carroll still has the bat speed, which makes me think the same power hitter's still there, but it's just he doesn't feel right from that shoulder. That's bad.
So pitching matchups, I'm seeing that there aren't any. Is that correct?
No, I have them right now.
Okay,
we got them. So Thursday night we have an actual ace off, and again, this is a game where like. Love to be there, but like the fact that the Rangers are playing,
we're watching,
and
Rangers.
The way this team is, it's just like I can't spend my hard-earned time in Money City Field right now. But Christian Scott versus Zach Allen, that's a reason to go to the ballpark. Yeah. And then Friday night, Luis Severino versus Jordan Montgomery. Saturday in the next game, the Mets are going to lose in their City Connect jersey. Sean Manaea versus I think Blake Walston's his first name, and then Sunday an emerging ace off. What?
Oh yeah, Blake Walston.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And then Tylor Megill versus Brandon Pfaadt on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And Saturday, 4:10 is the Darryl Strawberry number retirement. So couldn't be better vibes for that.
Yeah, no, it's a real shame that the Mets had 2 all-time greats in their organization and chose to retire their number in one of the worst seasons that no one gives a shit about.
And doing it for not good in April on a day where it rained.
Yeah,
I've never heard of any team ever in the history of baseball retiring a number in April.
Fan engagement. Fan engagement.
Leave it to the Mets to try and fill that ballpark up.
The Diamondbacks are playing terribly. I don't even care anymore. It's so not on us. Yeah, I don't give a shit. Gabriel Moreno has been horrendous. About as bad as possible. Tip my cap on that one. I've been all over that.
He's like 23.
I've been
get
all
over
over
yourself.
that one.
And he's still a great defensive catcher. He's like 10%
no, I think
worse
they
than
fell off.
average.
I think he fell off defensively too this year.
I saw all his defensive ratings are still good.
Then I'm wrong on that part. But
yeah, he's a good ball player.
He's okay. Christian Walker, Ketel Marte have really been carrying this offense along with Jock Peterson, who's gonna hit 2 or 3 home runs this weekend. There's no doubt.
Crazy.
Those guys have been.
He's gonna get one off Christian Scott.
Yeah, those guys have been really carrying the offense. Otherwise, like Corbin Carroll has been bad. Lourdes Gurriel, after being unreal hot to start these seasons, shocker, not good. But Eugenio Suarez, horrible. They're playing Kevin Newman every day at shortstop because of injuries. Guys like Randall Grichuk, Tucker Barnhart, and Pavin Smith are getting at bats. This is an unbelievably beatable Diamondbacks team, like crazy beatable. This is going to be a real fun test. I think the Mets have a super dangerous opportunity here to lose how many in a row if they keep playing like they are.
They won one the other day, didn't they? We've lost. Yeah, we beat the Giants that one game, but we've lost All right, so going back to the 2-game sweep against the St. Louis Cardinals, which is the only series the Mets have won since I returned from my travels. So thank God I'm leaving the country again. But the Mets have lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. They have lost 16 out of 20 games. 4-16 in their last 20, dating back to May 10th.
Maybe Jorge Lopez was right.
He could have been close, but Jordan Montgomery has not pitched well since signing late in the offseason. Scott Boras seems to have fucked all of his clients again. Your boy Paul Sewell is still great. It's going to be fun to have Paul Sewell back in Citi Field during a week of pure chaos for the Mets. Yeah, I hope he does. It'd be awesome. It'd be a good, great storyline. Kevin Ginkel had a really good start to the year when Sewell was actually injured, but he's been struggling of late. And reliever to check out in the Diamondbacks. I'm sure we'll see him because I'm sure we're going to be losing all these games. Justin Martinez.
Yes.
He's completely fucking disgusting. Throws 100 miles an hour with a nice tight slider and a crazy splitter with a lot of drop. Like he's amazing. They made him in the lab. Shout out Brett Strom.
Even with the chaos that is the New York Mets, we still find a way to get James to sneak in a little reliever for you to keep an eye out for. Some things never change. One of those being the Mets being dog water. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for watching this episode of the Mets'd podcast. We appreciate you. Follow us on all our social media at Mets'd on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to the Mets'd podcast YouTube channel if you want to see that. And if you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. Follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
Get this guy to 10K followers. Enough already. If you're not following him, follow him. And you can follow me at GiraffeNickMark with a C. Thank you guys for listening and watching. At least it might be interesting these next couple days. We'll find out and we'll keep you posted. See you guys next time. Peace.
Peace out. See you guys next time.